So this exhibition is called Being Inbetween, and it's a selection of portraits of girls aged between 10 to 12, wearing the clothes of their choice, and I've interviewed them, asking them questions about their lives, their hopes, their fears, their dreams, and there is a soundscape that goes with the exhibition. So the reason it's called Being Inbetween is because I have very strong memories of my age when I was 10 to 12, and it's kind of between childhood and young adulthood, and I remember being that age so deeply that it kind of affected how I saw myself when I got older. So I remember feeling really uncomfortable about myself suddenly. I remember having big existential thoughts in my mind. I remember that the things that people said to me at that age became how I saw myself when I got older, particularly little flippant comments. And I realised as I got older, and as how I defined myself was very much based on how I saw myself at that period of time. And I wanted to kind of explore that period of time. And I remember thinking, you know, what is that period of time? Is it 10? Is it 11? Is it 12? And I thought, no, it's kind of in between childhood and young adulthood. And I think it's interesting because as an artist and photographer, people would often say about children, girls particularly of this age, that they were awkward, that they were going through an awkward phase. And I remember thinking, but is it awkward? It's actually an amazing time when you're changing and you're becoming your young adult self. And I wanted to give girls of this age the opportunity to be who they are and to celebrate them as they are. So I kind of did a call out and I invited them to wear the clothes of their choice. I didn't want parental or carer intervention. I wanted them to choose how to represent themselves. And I wanted to ask them questions about their lives, because what they have to say is really significant. I think I always did. I always had surprising responses in the interviews. I never knew what they were going to say, and sometimes some of the girls would say something really, really powerful and philosophical, and then they would end it with, but I want to be a unicorn. You know, so it's the juxtaposition between something really deep thinking and kind of light-hearted made it really powerful. I remember one of the girls, Abigail, came. The work was in an earlier stage, and she came to Hull where the work was being exhibited, and I was doing portrait shoots there. And she was wearing like a dark cloak and a sword, because I had said, wear what you would like to wear. And she was very diminutive and small, and I remember she stood in front of the lights and the camera, and she was suddenly really regal. And when I asked her what she wanted to be, she said, I want to train as an architect, then I want to go to Romania and raise wolves. And it was just so surprising. I talked to her father about it, and he said to me that Abby had started to feel very self-conscious because her friends had started to tease her about what her outfits were. So she started to doubt whether she could wear the clothes she was wearing. She wanted to fit in. But actually being part of this, she started to be recognised, and her picture was shown across the world in Huffington Post, in BuzzFeed, in magazines, and there were adults saying, I want to be Abby when I grow up, she's so cool. So Abby, who was going through a bit of a crisis at 10, suddenly had a huge kind of positive trajectory because she was part of this. So I think there are so many challenges, and not just as you grow up, and I think not just for girls, but also for boys. But the reason I focused on girls here is because it's about my experience of being a girl of this age. So I was kind of exploring that through looking at girls of that age. And I think the challenges are, you know, you can go from being quite free-spirited, and then you hit 9 or so, and you become more self-conscious, more self-aware, more aware of what's going on in the world. There's so much peer pressure, and I think social media is a huge thing as well. So for a lot of girls, it's trying to fit in, trying to fit into their peer group, also worrying about all the things that are happening in the world. I think it's a hard world to grow up in for a lot of the girls. They come from very varying backgrounds. I wanted the work to be a cross-section, like a community of girls. So you have girls from different socio-economic backgrounds, different cultures, but they all had the same challenges. I started the series in about 2013, 2014. I had not anticipated that I would be working on the series 6 years later, which then shows you how long it took. But I think as the series became more seen, and my dream was to get those girls' faces in galleries, but also to create a book, I wanted the work to be a cross-section, I think I mentioned earlier, to be a cross-section of a community of girls. And I realised there was open calls initially. And then as I realised, as I went on, I wanted girls that were not represented. So I did very specific call-outs. Towards the end, the one thing I did know was there was no one in a wheelchair. There was no girls in a wheelchair. And I did a call-out. And there were identical twins, Lottie and Becca, who were the last two. So that was in February 2020, just before the pandemic, and that finished, but it took me 6 years. I had periods where I wasn't focused on the work so much. There were periods where I doubted the work, where I thought, what am I doing? I lost the reasoning, and then, you know, and then I'd kind of get over that. And people encouraged me. I had mentors who kind of really encouraged me and said, it will take as long as it takes. So over the 6 years, it's become a significant kind of portrait of that time, of girls of that time. So I'm a very busy working artist and photographer. One of the pieces I'm doing, and it's a commission piece rather than a personal project, is I'm artist in residence for a big health study, a longitudinal health study called Born in Bradford. And it's been going for 14 years, and they've worked with like 14,000 people, lots of academics involved. And they invited me to be their artist in residence. And I'm, on the basis of Being in Between, really, I'm taking portraits at the moment of 12, 13, 14-year-olds, 25 of them, and following them up every year until they get to about 20, 21, which is just a total joy to be able to do. So the same process, the pictures are different, they're young people of all genders, but I still take a powerful portrait of them and I interview them about their lives, but I can now see, and the health research study, it feeds into that, so that's an exciting one. But I also have lots of kind of private commissions and personal projects as well. So I'm so delighted that not only is the work exhibited, but it's also published in this book by Blue Coat Press. It's a really precious book. It contains all the girls, and I just feel like it's a precious book of individual portraits and their words. I think it's accessible to all people, and I'm very proud of it. It took a whole lot of work, but I'm really proud of it, and I think all the young people that I have made portraits with are really delighted to be in it, really.